Taking your only son, whom you love, to go sacrifice him. How many of y'all could have handled that?
The Lord, we probably can't do it. We go simp out church, but the Lord did for us, right? He sent Jesus. All right, church. We are back yet again. My shades go, church. Oh Lord, let me get my shade.
Must mean they don't need them. We've been telling them to take them shades off for episode after episode after episode.
Hey, take them off, church. We're gonna do project. Take them off, put them on. Understand me?
Do what you want to do,
just
sir.
like in the
Come
funeral,
on.
I'd be like, why folk got shades on in church?
All right, church. So we are here back yet again. We go deep dive into, Abraham. He been going through a bunch of situations. Understand me? But what's the name of the show again, y'all? I forgot, man. I had to get my shakes.
You forgot.
What's the name of the show? Project, you remember?
It was something for yourself. Do it for
No.
yourself.
Prove your faith. Thank you. Prove your faith to yourself, church. That's the name of the show, understand me?
I just got them in for the show. I said, you better have your stuff together.
Prove your faith to yourself. So basically, just deep dive on it, right?
Thank you, Protege.
I mean, yeah, where would y'all be without me, man?
Understand me?
Shoot.
Hey, you say you the star, right? You Dave Ruff for me with the Temptation. Ain't nobody come to see us, Otis.
Come on, man. Come on.
Ain't nobody come to see us, Otis. So basically, Abraham been simping for a long time. He been simping pretty much ever since the Lord came to him with the covenant, church. And once again, let me say, I am presidential election. This is the protege, and that's the man with the master plan. Please like and subscribe, understand me? Pastor Mark, please Collins, understand me? Mount Olive, understand me? Out there in Winona, Texas, understand me?
Come
That's
on,
where it's
come
going
on.
down, understand
Church
me?
on the hill where the people's real.
Everybody, somebody, understand me?
Oh, that boy be showing up and paying attention, don't he?
All right, church. So, Abraham been simping, right? He done simped this whole time. The Lord gave him a covenant. After he said go, Abraham went on faith. He stepped out on faith, right? But there's a bunch of opportunities where he could have stayed in his faith. He chose not to do that, church. And one of those situations was actually when he came and finessed Pharaoh, right? So, in the last lesson, we was getting into the whole treaty between him and Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, hey, Abraham, you a little bit too good at finessing, understand me? I need you to sign a peace treaty amongst me and you to say, hey, you do not finesse me no more. Don't come through that line. Do not deceive me. Do not deceive any of my kids. Hey, Abraham, this ain't gonna ride. That dog ain't gonna hunt, understand me? So, at the end of this situation, the pastor go deep dive on the text, but out of all that same situations where he had to make the mighty Pharaoh sign the treaty, understand me? The Lord go chastise Abraham in the utmost way. He gonna make him kind of choose the ultimate sacrifice. Pastor go deep dive on the scripture whenever he's ready. And we go take it on in like that. The project go give a little context. I'm gonna give a little presidential, intellectual, and masculine procedure, understand me? It's go ride through there real fresh and creamy like.
For the freshest, creamiest dip.
With these scoops, understand me? That biggest, freshest, creamiest dip, understand me?
Creamiest dip.
On all the chips underneath, church. Pastor.
He killed it with all the chips. I was going to ask him, what was the name of them chips again?
Scoops.
New Frito scoops.
No. Pharaoh had them cantina thins, understand me? Abraham had them scoops, understand me?
He going to get it right in one episode. So Abraham was tested. Verse 1, sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am.
My good and faithful servant.
He replied. Then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to Brain and Mount Moriah. So then sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain. I will show you. Now, this whole first verse is in verse 2 for sure about taking your only son, whom you love, to go sacrifice him. How many of y'all could have handled that?
The Lord, we probably can't do it. We go simp out church, but the Lord did for us, right? He sent Jesus. Jesus, El Savior Christ, understand me?
How many of us really move like God in terms of sacrifice? Because one thing about it, we don't like to make too many sacrifices.
That's what the name of the show is. Prove your faith to yourself. How deep you gonna go, church? How far are you gonna go to prove your faith to yourself? Or when your first opportunity to simp out, you gonna say, well, the Lord know my heart. What you gonna do?
Right, church folk really say that. You know, the Lord,
So
you know my heart. You know my heart.
It's gonna be a fork in the road for everybody here, church. You got to choose the right way or the wrong way. Understand me?
Okay, so he said, take your son, not just your son, your only son, and obviously you love your son. All right, and I want you to go down there and I want you to sacrifice him as a burnt offering on the mountain. And so early the next morning, Abraham, first of all, see, I want y'all to see the difference in Abraham right here. He got to have some strong faith because he was only told one time. We don't see what the Lord told him 2 or 3 times to go do this. He only told him one time.
But this crazy part about it, right? This is why I just derived from that pastor. Every time the Lord told him to do something,
he did it.
He did it. But all the simp situations that he decided to do, he don't never say nothing about the Lord talking to him to do none of that.
Because God ain't in there.
When he finessed Pharaoh, the Lord didn't tell him to finesse Pharaoh. That was a decision on his own. When Sarah was like, hey, we go get this slave girl and you gonna have a baby with her, that wasn't the Lord, that was them.
That's just like us. When we get ourselves in some trouble, it's really us. It's self-inflicted. A lot of times we look for somebody to blame, but the most trouble I've ever been in, I got it on my own. I can own that. Mm-hmm. Most people won't own that though, but the most trouble I've ever been in, the worst situations, the worst relationships I've been in, I chose for myself, right? Mm-hmm. I said, this is for me, this job is for me, or whatever situation, scenario I got in, I can guarantee you the worst of them is because I went in without praying. The Bible says, in all things we ought to pray, in all things. So you got to pray.
We got to pray just to make it today.
What I like about Abraham, when he was told by God to do something, he didn't say nobody else, but when God says something, he did it. That's a good thing.
You got that part right.
Yeah, and listen, the Bible says be faithful of a few things and make you rule over many. God never expected us to be perfect. We should seek perfection. There's only one perfect person, that's him. But we should seek perfection.
Yeah, perfection is the goal. You understand that you're not gonna achieve it, but you should make it a goal. And as long as you stay aligned with the word, it's actually pretty possible. It is possible to live a sin-free life, church. Now,
that's if your heart really wanted that.
But it's only a byproduct, right? Mm-hmm. A sin-free life is a byproduct of staying in your word, or your pimping, or your masculinity, or your femininity as a woman. A byproduct of those situations is a sin-free life. But you can't do it on your own accord. So that's what the Lord got to test. That's why the Lord had to.
That's a faith check right here.
Because the Lord was like, hey, I already told you I'm going to bless you. You done have seen a couple examples of how I'm going to bless you regardless of your simp situation. Regardless of the situation with you and your nephew in Sodom and Gomorrah. Regardless of your situation.
Let's pause there. While you're saying all of this, we're talking about God going to still bless. Don't ever make the mistake of thinking that God doesn't have wrath. God doesn't get upset.
Oh yeah.
Don't ever make the mistake and think that. And see, sometimes I think that's what happens when God has already shown us how He's gonna bless us. Sometimes we can get lax on God because what God has done so much. Sometimes God has done so much for us. We get out of hands a little bit. We get lax in our servitude. We get lax. Yeah. So don't make the mistake think just because God promised you He gonna bless you that you can just do whatever you want to do. That's not of God. You know, I want to get that clear because there's been a discrepancy about different beliefs or different religions that believe that we live a life that we're saying there's a pass on sin. No, we're not. We just believe in our faith as Christians that not that there's a pass on sin, but there's forgiveness for sin.
Jesus forgives sin.
There's enough grace for the sin. That was the whole purpose of the death, burial, and the resurrection. He died for the remission of our sins. So we're not saying on this show at any point that there's a pass on it. By no means. God just has an abundance of favor. So I want to point that out just for a second. Some folks got our faith mixed up talking about them Christians just think they can sin, just do whatever they want to do and still go to heaven. No, that ain't what we're saying. God does get angry. He just had an abundance of mercy and forgiveness. So it says, early in the morning, Abraham did what he was told to do. So he got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. And when he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him to go. And then verse 4, on the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said, now listen, not only, I just want y'all to see how much he was doing what the Lord told him to do. He was already willing to go sacrifice his son. He got 2 folk now that's going to witness him kill his son. in the event everything goes according to plan, right? And then not only that, as we can see by reading the text, there's a journey he got to take to do this. The Bible said the third day they got where they was going, so he had to walk. Can you imagine this 3 days of walking with your child the whole time? You know that amongst and in your bag somewhere you got the knife that you're gonna use to kill your own child. Can y'all imagine how long this journey must have been? 3 days of walking, knowing that God told you to go do something that would have been the hardest thing. The son you love, and that's faith. We're talking about faith tonight. So what do you say about that?
The Lord already told him he gonna bless him, right? And the Lord already know the past, present, and future of all these scenarios before they even happen, right? Mm-hmm. But Abraham has this thing. Abraham now needs to understand that once he receives his blessing, after he proves his faith, which you're going to get into in the text, he needs to be fully aware that I deserve this. I am worthy of this blessing the Lord gave me. So there's a lot of problem with people, right? Is we'll get a blessing and we don't even feel worthy, and we'll mess it off because we know we didn't earn that for real. So we don't respect it, we don't value it because we didn't really earn it on our own accord. Based on how we're living and all the decisions we just looked up, or maybe our parents had some good favor, or maybe somebody we know had some good favor, or maybe we just at the right place at the right time. Luck does happen on planet Earth, understand me, church. And if you just come into some good favor and you didn't do nothing to earn it, you more than likely you're just gonna lose it, and you go mishandle it to the point to where it's gonna
snatch from you anyway.
If you snatch from you, and you might be worse off before you even got it, because you didn't have to walk in faith to actually achieve nothing you got. You just ran into it. So the Lord already promised him, right? The Lord already promised him he gonna get everything. The Lord promised him he gonna get enough, gratitude, enough favor to equivalent to the sands of the desert, pretty much.
So basically, all of us, the viewers, us on the panel, we ought to all have the kind of faith Abraham has or displays here in the text. I say we ought to, but I must confess there will be a task. I got a 6-year-old son, Kingston. I got a 14-year-old son, Marquise II. I have 3 daughters, and we talking about taking my son, who was me, and we talking about I had 3 girls first, right? And then I'm like, I gotta have a boy because I'm carrying the last name. I'm the last Collins in my family, so it's like gotta have a boy to keep it going, right? And so once I get him, you want me to go make this sacrifice? You got to get past talking faith. That's acting out faith. Faith is an action too, because if you have faith, you can act on things that God tell you to do, even if it's gonna make you uncomfortable, even if it's gonna make you feel some type of way about the decision that has to be made. But if you trust God and your faith is where it ought to be, you're gonna get a victory in the end anyway. So maybe I can see through the text that's where Abraham had to have been to take his son, going a 3-day journey. He had 3 days to turn around and go back. He had 3 days to simp again, y'all. Right?
This is his moment. Like I said, the Lord had to literally force him to prove his faith to himself. Because if he didn't, the Lord can't reward you until you prove your faith. Not for real. Not to the point where you can really let it bless your whole family, bless your whole generation. It's a difference between you having some good favor and your whole rest of your family, family tree having a good favor. Yeah. Everybody got onesies and twosies. Everybody got that aunt and uncle. Everybody got their aunt and uncle growing up. I always just had a little bag. I always had a nice car. I always had some money. Their kids was always nice. But guess what? Their kids ain't well off like how they was. Their kids ain't doing nowhere close to how good they did, because maybe they didn't really get what they got on it wasn't connected to the Lord how they got it. Right. They just kind of looked up and had a good job, or whatever happened. They did some work for themselves, but they never instilled nothing into their children on how to. Their children don't have no clue how they got it.
So I think that goes back to the scripture said, "What profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul?" We quoted that scripture on here before, but it's relevant tonight because all of what Abraham had, he'd have rather had his son over the possessions that he had. He'd have chose his son. I believe he'd have chose his son over his possessions. But in this case, he chose God. And when you choose God over your possessions, over in this case his own son, when you choose God, you can't do nothing but win. And that's what he did. That's what he did here in the text. So as we read on and get into how he chose God, on the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place at a distance. He said to his servant, "Stay here with the donkey while I and my boy go over there. We will worship You know, like it's hard to read it without pointing out all what Abraham did. Abraham didn't need no crowd. He was gonna do this thing by himself. Y'all need to know that on this journey, there gonna be some decisions that folk can't go with you. Now these folk done traveled with them from home, 3-day walk, but when it came down, when rubber met the road, and Abraham had to do what he had to do, what thus said the Lord, he did it, and he did it on his own. He didn't ask nobody to come with him. He knew what he had to do. So he said, we will worship and then we will come back to you. Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father, Abraham, Father, yes, my son.
What's going on?
Yeah, like, hold up, man. You putting the wood on me. We know to put this on lamb. We know.
Matter of fact, where is the lamb, Pastor? Ain't no lamb here.
Hold
We
up.
got a lamb at the house.
Is the lamb me? Daddy, isn't me. Right? So, and so the story went on. Isaac spoke up and said, Father, what's going on? He said, yes, my son. Abraham replied, the fire and wood are here. Isaac said, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Because you putting the wood on me, man. Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering. And that, in verse 8, is the best example of Abraham's faith igniting at that very moment. Is when he told his son, when he knew that God had already told him to sacrifice him, God is going to provide this lamb. Check out what happened because of this faith. It said, and the two men went together, and when they reached the place of God, he told them about. Abraham built the altar and arranged the wood. He had bound Isaac his son, put him on the altar, placed that wood on him, and look at verse 10. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But I thank God for butting this in this lesson. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Do not lay a hand on the boy, he said. Do not do anything to him. But mind you, that's what he was told to do. But God stepped in. I wonder it's because of that faith right there when Abraham was like, don't worry, son. A lamb is coming. Even though he knew he was finna raise his hand and sacrifice his own child, but right in the nick of time, that's Jesus. And the Bible says in Psalms, he's a very present help in the time of trouble. Jesus is present every time, if your faith is right. If your faith is where it ought to be, Jesus is a very present help in the time of trouble. So do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son.
Finally, Abraham, after a lifetime of sin.
But it ain't too late.
I can finally overflow your cup.
Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw the ram, the one he spoke of. You do know there's power in the tongue. That power of life and death is in the tongue. You can speak some good situations into your life. Just believe it. If you speak it and believe it, you have more power than you think. What do you think about that? About just talking it? Because sometimes I think people that speak negatively, you get negative results. If you always speaking negative results come. What do you think about how much power the mouth and the tongue has? How much power does the tongue have?
I sat through this whole episode for a reason, because it was a powerful message, even for myself. And what I gathered from this, Pastor, is that I'm gonna just say it. You can't half-ass God.
Never half-ass two things. Whole-ass one thing.
Like, God saw what this man was doing. Yeah, he gave him some instructions and he told him exactly what to do, right? But along the way, he still found a way to do stuff his way. Versus what God had instilled in him. Following the faith that I give you.
I know I'm kidding Abraham.
I'm just saying.
Abraham got to be one of my cousins.
Abraham got there. You know what I'm saying? But along the way, the man made some treacherous, lifelong mistakes. And then they still came back to see this man. And I feel like in the moment where God forced him to test his faith, that was God's way of saying, like, I'm going to punish you emotionally. I'm gonna punish you physically.
Was it a punishment or was it like just a lesson?
I feel like it was a punishment. I feel like it was chastising. I feel like it was God showing him, I'm God. You don't make no more decisions unless I tell you to. Like the decision you made to sit with Pharaoh.
Do it again. More like Scare Straight.
Yes.
The little show.
The decision you made
you know.
with you and your wife finessing people, having babies with slave and stuff. Come on, y'all. I done sat here quiet so y'all can get all that at
You brought it out of us. I'm sorry. You brought it out of us.
I always do that. Why I had to be quiet. But listen, God let him know that I am God. You can't do nothing without me.
Remember, I'm the monkey and you're the cheese grater, so no messing around.
You can't do nothing without me. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you better than I can tell you, because I'm going to tell you to do something crazy. I'm going to tell you to do something so off the wall, and I'm going to see.
Ain't it funny how God tell you to do something crazy?
And he did. He tested that man's faith. And
you gotta have some crazy faith.
Yes, but I feel like the man knew that God had did all those things that he had promised up to that point, in spite of him being silly. Now, he could have chosen in that moment not to do what God said.
He had 3 days.
Yeah. He could have chose to go back. He could have chose to get a doggone donkey, a pig, a turtle, anything.
There was plenty of time to go back on.
And put it on that fiery, sacrifice. But he went and laid his baby there.
Like with Cain and Abel, he could have tried to finesse the Lord.
Yeah, he could have tried to bamboozle it.
Give him an offering that wouldn't really fit.
But he didn't. And he raised the sword to take his son's life. And right in that moment God said, all right, that's enough. All right, you good. You good. You did what I told you to do.
You overachieved.
Yeah, you good, my boy.
You was finna kill your own son.
Yeah, you good.
Because I told you to do it. I can't do nothing. God rewards your faithfulness. God, He's gonna do it. God rewards your faithfulness. If you do it for God, God's gonna know too. His heart had to be in God to do what he was doing. Solely.
In life, you tested like that.
What's a personal test for you, Project?
I ain't doing no personal stuff, but I'm gonna talk about some life stuff that people really going through right now.
Have you had a situation where
gas is high, groceries is high, people is out here really struggling to try to make it right now. Like there's a wild
even folk that look like y'all can amazed how many folk look like even in your circle like they doing it, they all right and they struggling.
They get up every day and go to work and don't know how they gonna pay their bills at the end of the month, at the first of the month. Don't know how they gonna pay to feed their babies, but it happens. Like that's the type of faith that I got. I know that I got faith in what I'm doing, how I'm moving, where my heart is, my relationship with God. It lets me know all I gotta do is keep going, keep doing what I'm doing, because I know God is in it. He stay at the front of it, and I'm gonna be all right. I don't care about nothing. Like a carefree life is full of God. Like you literally stop worrying about stuff. You don't worry about a thing.
As your faith grows, that's when old folks be like, I ain't worried about it, I'm just gonna pray. You be like, pray.
Yeah.
I've been praying, ain't nothing changed. That's what in your flesh, in the human side, because we want to see God doing something, but God works behind the scenes, and he take care of things that we don't even see. He goes before us and do it. So, I don't want the lesson to end on his mistakes, because what if your life ended on your mistake?
A lot of people like to end on their mistake, though. And sometimes it's the mistake of their life.
But let me share something with you. We talked about the last show, reaping what you sow. I think when we hear that, we always conclude it's in a negative, reaping what you sow. Like if you do something bad gonna happen. Well, it's quite it go the other way too. If you sow good seed, good fruit come from that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it don't just end on a negative, but a lot of times when you hear that, basically that karma, it's gonna come back to you. It's gonna, but
I like
guess
to
what?
think that it was
what happened here,
like a monopoly, like a little.
What happened here with Abraham though?
You slid that
he
baby
reaped
in
what he
there.
sowed, but then in the matter of his faith, taking his son and sacrificing him, he sowed that too.
I know.
So the benefit of that is what?
I always got that weird perspective. I feel like when they slid that little side baby in there, You hear me? I feel like God said, I ain't forgot.
Y'all know we got a woman on the panel.
You
She
hear
talking
me?
about she
I
going
feel
back
like
to that
God
side,
said,
baby.
I feel like God said, oh, you thought I forgot my boy? Oh, no, I ain't forgot. Yeah, so I'm going to make you give up the one I gave you. Because you did something I wasn't in that. I done had nothing to do with the decision
So you
that
mean
y'all
tell
made.
me? You mean tell me you got the time on it? So you the cameraman? You presidential?
Hey, the camera go cut off if we go too long. That's just a limitation on the hardware, church.
Nevertheless, hey,
I was just pointing out your little talents. I'm sorry.
I mean, I do. I
Like,
honestly
share, and
feel like,
subscribe.
yeah.
Like, share, and subscribe. We've been having some good topics where we still have, see, you know when it's good when you have some more to say. We just got to cut it off. We got to
Yeah.
end it just like this.
I had more to say, but of course these 2 men on the panel, I laugh. Just sit back and let them do their thing this week. Y'all go like, share, and subscribe.
I want y'all to wait till next episode
Yeah.
where me and my brother, we going to be quiet for the first 5 minutes and we going to see how this thing goes.
Nah, don't do it. Don't do it, Pastor. Don't do it, Pimp. Y'all keep doing y'all thing. I'm sitting right here in the middle just looking back and forth.
Y'all keep
Yeah.
on subscribing, supporting us. We need you. And more importantly, God needs all of us to be on the mission for serving Him and trying to lead more people to Him. Don't give up on God. Keep your faith. Prove your faith to yourself, not the people. Prove your faith to yourself, because your faith ain't gonna mean nothing to nobody until you can make it mean something to you.
Understand me, church? That's just how it's gonna go. And we gotta get up out of here. We've been having some great conversations with the pimp, pastor, and the protege. We gonna come back to y'all one more time for you mind. Understand me? We up out of this thing. It's 5 or Simp.